Welcome to the Veriff 10th anniversary podcast series. This is the story of how an idea and a mission became a global leader, building trust for people and companies everywhere. My name is Anisah Osman Britton, and I'm going to be your host.
Hi, I'm Ott Kaukver, and I'm the board member at Veriff, and have been advising Carl for quite a couple of years now. And in my previous life, I've been usually an engineering leader and the product leader in different companies called Skype, Twilio, and Checkout.com.
And I'm Hubert Behaghel. I'm Chief Product and Technology Officer at Veriff. I joined in 22. I live in Spain. I have 7 children. And in my previous life, I was actually helping big brands in the UK and working at Amazon.
Amazing. And having so many children means you have the most amazing artwork. I'd love to understand from both of you, maybe starting with you, Ott, first, what sold you the dream of joining Veriff in a more sort of formal capacity? You said there that you've been advising Carol for a while, but what sort of convinced you that it was time to join in a more formal capacity?
Yeah, we go back with Carl probably like 6-7-ish years now. So quite at the beginning when he was running the company. I think it was like maybe like 10-15 people at the office at the time. And he was going through those kind of first exponential growth, and how he handled that was great. But also kind of over the years, he kept asking me for different types of advice, probably every 3 to 6 months time. And usually it was around like kind of how to set up product and engineering and how to scale and all that kind of stuff. So and now probably a year ago, maybe a little bit more, he made an offer to kind of, hey, do you want to join the board and also be kind of the sounding board for him on different types of decisions, how to grow the company to the next phase. And I said yes after a couple of discussions with him, and I now been kind of spending maybe on various parts of time kind of helping him to reflect on the future possibilities, and also working with the team on with Hubert also on different topics in the company.
One of the stories that he asked you for some advice on, and that we've heard in the last 2 episodes, is this myth, or I guess legend, about him asking whether he should sell the company in the very early days. Now, we've heard this story from Carol's point of view. We heard it on the last episode too from a couple of the investors. What's the story from your perspective? What happened?
Well, he called and he had a very intriguing offer, and it was really at the beginning when I kind of got to know him, and I didn't know what's the right decision. It's kind of, I just asked him kind of what's your perspective? What do you want to do? And he said like, I don't want to sell. So then I said, then you have the answer. And that's it. So I didn't tell him what to do. It's just kind of, he already knew, but it was more of the rational side and the emotional side in him probably were fighting with each other, and it probably was tempting, but like passionately he knew what was the right thing to do, and he had the answer himself. I just asked like a mirror question and put it back on him. So that was really the story. He maybe tells this in a more glorified way of me being an oracle or whatever. No, I just kind of it was all in him.
I love that. Yeah, I think the story is that you were the only person who said no, don't sell.
And the second one actually was himself. So
there we go. I love that. Everyone's so humble. Hubert, you joined in 2022, which I believe was the same year as the Series C, the unicorn status, all that good stuff that was happening. What convinced you to join the company?
To say that when I was mentoring actually young engineers, I always tell them like, when you want to make a career decision, you need really to answer 2 questions: is what is it you're going to build, what problem are you going to solve, and with whom, right? And at Veriff, when they contacted me, I was intrigued because, if I'm honest, like I wanted to get more involved into the AI space, and Veriff is AI native, and I was like, okay, these guys are serious. Then once I dug into the problem space, I realized that trust is losing online, and I was like, okay, this is a real problem. But really what won me was Carol first. and then the team. And I have to say, I've grown quite fond of my colleagues in Estonia. It's a very exotic destination for someone like me living in Barcelona, and that's where I got completely hooked. And since then, it hasn't disappointed.
I love that. Where was Veriff when you joined though? Where was the product at?
So Veriff was very strong on its hybrid IDV solution at that time. Growth was there, but there was a perception effect that because we were early success was with the crypto space, and crypto was going through a winter at that time. So there was also this kind of you could say shaky ground, maybe, or at least that's what some would see at that time. And it was just actually the right time to accelerate. But I would say there was two elements to the acceleration: ready to go multi-product, but also ready to build a new level of discipline and efficiency to be able to do the two at the same time, right? To keep nurturing the core product, which was really strong, while also attacking. But that was this kind of crossing road. Very exciting time. Yes.
And then I guess from there till now, and you mentioned AI there. What are some of like the big changes that you've seen that's been like, okay, hey, we are really winning because of X, Y, and Z?
Okay, no, that's a good one. So interestingly enough, yes, AI is definitely the secret weapon of Veriff, but the way it works is how Veriff has been able to blend or combine the human element and the machine element, right? And that's where Veriff is very clever, and so we have we have a good recipe for that. And I tend to think of Veriff as a bionic company and not just a company. The thing that also is very interesting is the ability to be driven by metrics. So this is how you shoot for excellence. So we have a concept of metric driven development where we know how to maintain very high standards. Because one thing that people don't fully appreciate, Veriff is always dealing with moving targets. There are two main moving targets. The first one is obviously fraud, which by definition is going to move. And then there is also this, you could say, these online behaviors, but even the concept of identity. Now more and more people are having digital identity, etc. So there are these two lines that keeps moving, right? And so for us to have this obsession on very cardinal metrics like accuracy and ability to detect fraud has been the core of our success. But again, you're not going to be surprised, but the main thing that actually makes us win on a daily basis is our people, and there is a strong culture of ownership at Veriff. And that's actually what makes us fight every inch of the way and always get our customers in a safe space.
I actually just want to rewind on something you said there really quickly, which is the idea of the public understanding of identity has changed. I mean, we've even had Netflix shows about catfishing and all this good stuff. I wonder, how has that sort of impacted how you're thinking about Veriff from an external perspective?
So, for us, it's true that we had to zoom out. Veriff was born out of amazing skills to be able to do identity verification with a selfie, a snapshot of your passport, or any ID you have on hand, and then we do the job. And so we had to accept that, well, two things: that your face and your biometric is much more powerful than just being part of a pure IDV flow, and we created a full portfolio for that. But then the concept of identity is extremely nuanced, and to be nuanced with, so for instance, when we started having dating apps knocking at our doors because trust was their biggest issue, we realized that here actually you don't need to ask for a passport. Actually, it's even too intrusive. So the concept of identity for such use case actually needs to rely a lot more on biometrics, which capture a lot more of what you need to be certain of on these platforms. And you need to remove the friction as much as you can in any other way. So we had to accept that, yes, this beautiful machine we've been building, it needs to become much more nuanced in its ability to tackle more use cases.
I mean, you have a very interesting perspective as having an engineering brain but sitting at the board table. I'm wondering, how have you seen like the vision and the strategy evolve alongside the product in your time, both unofficially as Carol's kind of side advisor, but now also officially on the board?
Yeah, I think Hubert actually covered the evolution pretty well here. We started as a one product company for one use case, and now we're dealing with them like number of different use cases, and also responding and evolving the product with the market. And even like think about like what's the like no podcast probably goes without saying agentic or agents in the mix there, so I'm going to say it. So that's the new world we're living in. And imagine a world where you actually don't do stuff online anymore, but you grant permission to some machine or set of machines to act on behalf of you. So think of the how you need how the other systems that interface with that agentic world actually perceive the identity. Then it's actually a machine with the permission, your permission, that's acting, and like in that world, the concept of identity evolves even further. So I think that's the exciting opportunity for also for Veriff to evolve. And like that's like just even like a couple of years ago, where we were and where we're today, it's like big steps forward. So that's why we need to keep pushing on product innovation and really kind of building a proper multi-product company.
There is often a lot of hype in the media, people telling you the things that you should be excited about. Obviously, agentic AI and the move to AGI being something that's out there all the time right now. How do you decide, Huber, from like an engineering perspective, what you should build next? Is it sort of based on data? Should you be chasing some of the hype? How are you thinking about all of this stuff when you're making decisions?
Okay, no, well, for us, it's actually fairly simple at the start. The balancing act is hard, but the first signal comes from our customers, right? We're really close to our customers. We work with some of the biggest brands that have really trust at the heart of their value proposition. And this has to be the primary signal. It doesn't always lead to innovation, but it does actually with some of these customers. And we are definitely making sure we are stepping up when we see this opportunity. Well, the second source of what we want to build next, I have to say, comes from Karel. Like we have a visionary at the helm, and so we definitely also take a lot of input from that. And a big part of my mission is actually to translate and make it to reality. So that's also another sign. And then, as I said before, there is our data, and so we have our fraud data, which is important because we have had to create new products when we suddenly realized that the type of fraud our customers were facing couldn't be just tackled at the onboarding time, etc. So we had to instrument the full customer lifecycle with different solutions. And then there is just classic market research. Now I like what you say, because you're like, okay, but we get pushed into like this new fad, and should you engage or not? So first, there's two sides to this. On one side, we can't just dismiss straight away. So one thing is, so what's amazing in our line of work is we are in competition with the most innovating people in the world, the fraudsters, right? And they just don't do it single-handedly, like they collaborate in a very interesting way. So they are going to use anything at hand to make an impact. We have to always understand what is at hand, right? So we have to still, so there is always an exploration that is required. And then there is a second aspect, which is we have to always bring the best weapon to the fight. So now, is it the next generation of training architecture or machine learning? Is it agentic? We kind of have to look at that as potential weapon to fight back. And so we always have to explore. But now, how do we make big decisions, big bets? There is a bit of an iterative space, and we try to look at how much value we can unlock under a time box, and how much potential it has on paper, say in 3 years from now, if we nail it, right? And then based on that, we have a prioritization mechanism that allows us to decide where we go safe and unlock value for existing customer, and where we explore the new weapon and see if it can really take things to the next level.
Veriff is a sizable company with a sizable customers, and our customers come first for us. We need to make sure that we're enabling their businesses, we're securing their businesses, and this is the job number one for us. But also, if you just only listen to customers, then you're not gonna, the innovation part might be a little bit like more like less of it. It might be more biased to just kind of delivering features and capabilities that the customers ask. But like the other part where you always have to think about this kind of what are your bets for the future, kind of what are the customers not asking, and then seeing where the market is going. So there's always a mix of like keep the lights on and keep the engine running and keep the customers happy, build new capabilities to expand the TAM. Either it's kind of a different product lines or markets, but also you need to have like seed bets, and I think that the balance on the board level and also on the management level is always kind of like how much of the resources or capabilities you put into each of those buckets, and then that the balance is important to get right, because if you only are innovating and like putting stuff to the future and like chasing the next big hot topic, then you won't have a business, or the business will crumble. But if you like don't do that all, the other part, you might miss some trains. So it's never a static situation, always something that you should constantly ask, is the balance right?
That sort of echoes something when you and I have spoken in the past that you said. It's a quote that resonates in my mind every day, which was sell what's on the truck. And I wonder though, with all the excitement that is happening, how do you continue to persuade the team that we should be selling what is on the truck, not constantly innovating? How do you strike that balance?
I think the sell what's on a truck is comes from probably every company who operates in a B2B world has had a situation that there's a customer saying that, yeah, I would use your product if I would only have, I don't know, support in Botswana. And then you're gonna, okay, should I deliver that support for Botswana now, or do something else? It's a decision for the roadmap, and it's like a carrot that's being tangled in front of your face. You will get my business if I will have that support for that country, and you have the kind of a decision to make. Of course, it depends on the size of the investment. Is it useful for others? It's a kind of ROI question. But the thing is that if you commit to this kind of special custom feature for a customer, you can remove the optionality to do everything else. So it's kind of it's almost if you accept those custom made things too much, then you actually don't need product management, because sales opportunities are driving your product. And if that is your product strategy, your product might be quite uh, not coherent at the end of the day. However, at the same time, there are legit requirements, and you can make those decisions for specific customers. And usually, my lens has been, it's kind of if it makes sense for the overall platform strategy and overall product, and it floats all the customers' boats, and it's always not a custom development for one customer, but actually improves the platform in a way, and it supports our overall strategy. Of course, you should be accepting it, and of course you need to make sure that you're able to convert this into actually have the value captured too, so that you can get the revenue increase from that feature. So again, it's a question of balance. Probably in the size of the company that the Veriff is right now, and the product strategy probably shouldn't be custom features that drive our future, rather than us being the ones who are innovating on the market. However, at the same time, helping our customers to go to different countries or enable different capabilities is also important. So there's probably an element in the roadmap where you can see both of those parts. But yeah, the main line business, the main party business, should be selling what's on the truck.
What makes Veriff really exceptional is the product performance, right? And in this regards, I would say we shouldn't back down from selling what's on the truck until we have like 90% of the market share, to say something. So there is already a lot to do with what's on the truck. I think that's the first thing to accept, and here we need to. But the second thing is also, there's something very cultural to Veriff, which is a spirit of accountability. I said ownership before; it's the same thing. And so, if you set a roadmap, then you're going to create two things, right? You're going to create expectations on one customer, and maybe to the detriment of all the others. But also you're in less tangible way, and it's going to be hard to be in the spirit we want to have, which is under promise, over deliver. Like you're already on the over promise and try to deliver. So there is already this aspect that's a bit counterintuitive for our culture. And the second thing is, for Veriff, it's always important to stand high on, we have this signature of excellence. And so you want to be selling what's on the truck because you want to be sure that what you bring to the market is excellent. Everything else it's still selling. We do have we have a fairly structured way of bringing something to market, but until it has proven repeatability, it's still mostly the product team that needs to drive and prove that there is value, etc. And then from a sales perspective, okay, now it's on the truck. You should sell what's on the track. So this is the discipline, I guess, that allows Veriff to stay true to its excellence.
I want to switch gears a bit because I think something we never get to hear is what people actually do in their jobs, especially in engineering world. They talk so much about what they do, but not who they actually are. So I'd love to start with you, Hubert. Your role as CPTO, which is Chief Product and Technology Officer, a couple of years ago was a bit all over the place. Like there was a big hype about it. People were writing articles about it. What does this role actually mean day to day?
Yes. So at the end of the day, you try to be the CTO and the CPO. Now we need to ask ourselves, why does that make sense for a company like Veriff to combine these two functions? And the truth is, I think in practice, maybe we would always want to even have one CEO and they do everything, right? So there is already this, like when you start specializing, you need to really be clear on what. And at Veriff, at least at this stage for us, it makes sense to combine the two. Well, first, because the product and the engineering mind, they are just two hemispheres of the same brain, right? Product is right brain, engineering is definitely left brain, and you just need to accept that it's a decision made by these two sides that makes great decision. So there is this element at Veriff. What I like to think of you could say there is a technology and there is a product surface, but it's very much an iceberg, right? What people see, whether it's our customers or their customers that we serve directly, they see a fragment, not even 1% of what's happening under the hood. For Veriff, the voice of technology is a strong product voice. The voice of the platform, as I call it, but really the voice of technology is very important. What can you do with the latest AI? Where can you go by now you have all this data, like how can you kind of monetize it? Or most of these answers are going to come from the engineering mind that knows how to push the limit of what technology can do. So for a company like Veriff that has such a depth below the tip of the iceberg, it's actually very powerful to combine the two. And then for me on a day-to-day, for instance, the strength it gives me, the first, we have some customers, they actually want to talk to tech at Veriff. Some of the biggest customers we work with, they don't want to talk to sales. They don't want to talk even to product. They want to talk to people who can shape solution and even tell them how it works in the nitty-gritty details. And this is usually a sign of great relationship and lots to do together. So here I bring my relevance by having this full spectrum of what they need to know about Veriff. But then I can also fully realign the execution and make very strong commitment to them without having to go back, let me talk to my product counterpart, and then let's have a roadmap, etc. There's this ability to understand, provide the expertise, and make decisions and commit. This is super powerful. And that's really where I think this CPTO role at Veriff kind of gives us a lot of strength right now.
It also sounds like, though, like you said, you go out and speak to customers, that you then essentially become the face of the sales team. Does that sort of ring true too?
So, I mean, the thing is, I'm also very well aware that I'm actually an engineer and a product guy. I don't have all the skills and the ability to take people on a journey and sometimes even detect very quickly what they want to hear from me. So it's really a partnership here. But there's going to be two situations. One is the sales team is going to pull me or someone from my team at the right time, and then we can bring this expertise to the next level, and we can also help them understand how we see their problem into the context of our product. Or sometimes it's going to be more at the exec level. We try to have this back channel to be able to understand, well, how the partnership is going, but really where we could take it together. And these are also the kind of conversation that where you're right, like I'm more of the sales guy, but I'm just more trying to be a strategic advisor or partner, try to see where we should push the relationship to unlock more value. And here again, like knowing what we have in store, how things can be done, that helps a lot.
Like you and I have actually spoken about this in the past too, like that CTO role evolving into maybe more a sales-driven role. How do you see that, and how do you see it supporting maybe the processes that are happening internally at B2B companies?
Well, if you have a technology-driven product or a product that's the technology itself is so much in the core, then that's kind of like the best product managers are quite often engineers or sales engineers, because they know the customer needs and all that. And for a technology driven person to go into the sales discussion here is actually kind of having a discussion with the customer what they need and kind of providing a solution to that. It's discovery is easy. You need to be technical in this world. Like our sales folks are also technical, and and CSMs, and they know what what the product does, and the technology is not. They're not the ones who are gonna just put the paper and take the orders. It's helping customers to succeed, how to integrate Veriff into their product lines and all that. So it's I think there's actually benefit of, and I think every technologist and product managers and technologists should talk to the customers, because it's understanding your customers and what they need. It's absolutely necessary. Like and I think the original question was, what does the CPTO role mean? Is that, to me, it's speed in decision making, and then it's accountability. It's just makes is right configuration for our company size right now, where product innovation cycles are really fastening, and we're moving fast, and that supports our current model.
And how do your roles interact?
We talk about a monthly by monthly basis and usually around kind of how do we go faster. That's probably what everybody wants here. Kind of like, the speed is great, but how can we get even faster? So it's always future looking, and kind of trying to make sure that the bets that we're making, the configuration of the bets, like serving existing customers and innovation, and making sure that we have the best allocation for the future.
Yeah, I'm going to add a bit more color on this, because a relationship is actually multidimensional. But yes, so to me, Ott is a board member, and he's actually the most experienced board member on, you could say, my job. So pushing me on my cost structure, pushing me on my relevance on certain market like mid-market, that we cover. But then Ott is also, I mean, even though we do it, as you said, more on a monthly cadence, like he's my coach, and I'm going to go to him for any doubts I have, whether it's on just driving the product and engineering strategy, or even interacting with Canada. I hope I'm not betraying some secrets, but Ott is also a fantastic bridge between a truly visionary founder and then a guy like me who is much more anchored into the nitty-gritty reality of how we execute. And so he has been a bit of our couple therapist. We take our relationship with Canada very seriously, and it's true, we need sometimes Ott to help us be the sounding board, listen to our conversation, and then it's like, okay, so actually where you're struggling is this and this and this, and it has helped a lot, and it's always a pleasure. But I would dare to say that over the last year or two, like, we've become friends as well. So there's been also another conversation that maybe weren't necessary, but very uplifting.
It's a really fascinating dynamic that you have, which is why I wanted to interview you both together, because having a technical board member is quite rare who has been there and done the job through multiple scaling companies.
Yeah, I think it's actually, like, for me, it's also a new experience in being kind of this coach for both of them, because sometimes I know what the right answer is, or from my perspective, like, okay, this is the obvious way to go. Come on, how can't you see that? And then you cannot just say that, because then you remove like the accountability from Karel and Hubert, because they actually need to have their own conviction, their own thesis, and make their own decision, and then execute that. Because if I decide for them as a board member, I actually remove them from the accountability completely. Then it becomes my decision, my path, my selection, and I can't have that, because the roles are different here, and so that's why kind of quite often I have to sit on my hands and use vague questions, open-ended questions, to kind of help them to process things, or kind of like see different angles to that. And it is a little bit of a kind of like a therapy, or like you said, it's. But I think we've found our ways where how to kind of do that.
Well, if this career is something you're done with in the future, Retraining as a therapist sounds like a great idea. As you both know, we are celebrating 10 years of Veriff. So my final question to you is, 10 years from now, in this period of change that we're going to be going through, what is one thing you're excited to see?
Okay, well, I'm afraid I'm going to say the agentic word, but I have to say, for us at Veriff, it's one thing is there is going to be so many more things to verify and so many more ways to verify it. So that's definitely one thing. And there could be actually a future in this agentic era where instead of companies like a neobank choosing their trust partner like Veriff and then kind of imposing it to all their users, like there could be an inversion of force, and then actually the consumer would come with, look, this I already have my trust provider. This is and there is an opportunity for Veriff to also try to push that agenda and be also much more at the fore, and then deploy this infrastructure trust to a much wider range of use cases. But yes, I'm just excited to see technology accelerating and the consumer being even more at the center, because what's interesting with Gen AI, I think we've all felt it. For me, I've seen a lot of technological generation. It may even have been this kind of old monkey that says, well, actually, you think it's new, but it's not. Here, the one thing that's really new is that this is the first technology I see that's not reserved to the nerdy and we all speak English and then we can all interact and get value out of this thing. So it really repositioned the user in a very interesting way. So it opens a lot of possibilities for the future. And yes, there's definitely a way for Veriff to reposition itself in that context.
Yeah, I think there's I'm more thinking about like what's the world is going to be like in 10 years, and if I would know what the right answer is, I would probably be doing something something about that. But it's such a long time in technology. If you think about like how AI is changing the world now, and like every 6 months it's a completely new set of models and capabilities. Even like if you don't read the news for like two weeks in a row about what's happening in AI, you quite fast dinosaur. So and 10 years in that context is super hard to predict. But it like the overall trends of like devices being more connected, you have humans, you have agents now, you have like more and more traffic, and the aspect of security, knowing who's behind those actions, who is even more important. Like if you think about right now, even the videos, you cannot trust the videos that the human eye is seeing, and like is it fake news or not? It's like just how this has changed the world in just like a couple of years. It's radical, and like in 10 years time it's going to be number of more things in that sense, that where you need to make sense, is this real or not? And I think the concept or the need for trust and identity and the trust online is becoming even more important. So we've gone through the growth phases of the world that we know of, with Veriff, and we've been securing our customers' products and helping them to make sense of it. I think our customers' need will be even exponentially bigger in the next 10 years time, and I think this is what we are gearing up for. And what's it going to be, I don't know exactly, but I know that we will be working on it and solving for the future here.